Hey guys, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to go through your portfolio sites that you submitted last week and to give you some positive, productive feedback on how to evolve this site to its next best iteration. I want to remind you that theoretically your portfolio will never be done, and that's because you'll always be knowing more, learning more, and becoming more refined in your craft. So in a sense, your portfolio is a revolving door of the ways that your skills grow and change over time. And so I want you to keep that in mind because yes, this might be the second iteration of this, but you will touch it many times between now and when you graduate. So what I'm sharing here are some thoughts about what you want to concentrate on between now and your next portfolio class, and then hopefully help you guys get this to a place that you could use it for any opportunity that comes your way. So we're going to start with Morn here. We see right off the bat producer actor and then a little bit an about section here. This is a bit redundant, so home, resume, projects, my work. These things go to about the same place, and so it's a bit redundant in that regard. This is a pretty standard template for a personal portfolio site. I see this particular one over and over again from students, and it's a great one, but also you need to think about what are the needs of my content, and how can I choose a template that best supports that. So I want you guys to be thinking about that as you continue to sort of figure out where you're going to plug in your projects and your resume and all those things in a way to best showcase what you can do or want to do for other people. So just scrolling down a little bit, we do see the contact information and places that I can connect online. I'm going to go next to resume, and this is going to pull up a page that just somewhat outlines both education and experience here. I do see some discrepancies with fonts, right? So this is looking different than what we see here and what we saw on the other page. So you want to be really consistent from page to page in terms of your typography choices. Going next to projects. So here we see what you've chosen to share. You have the title and then your role in it. So like I can really appreciate what you've done to contextualize what it is that we're going to see here. Like this is a great example of how you can share more about your work than just the asset itself, right? So now we know that you were a performer and producer, and you gave me a little bit more information about that. I'm encouraged to see that you've done that for all of the projects listed there. This is also great keyword-rich content that can help people connect to your skills and abilities and whether or not you could bring that same value to a project that they're looking for help on. Last but not least, contacts. So here, just a simple form and ways that we can get in touch. One of the things that I did notice is if we go back to the home page, we have sort of this taupe color, and then that changes throughout. So again, just kind of another inconsistency in terms of aesthetic and style. So something you'll want to revisit there just to kind of hone in on that look and feel. So next up, we have MIC Entertainment here, and I'm scrolling down, and so some things to note. This is your home page. We've got a few really cool images here, a contact form of some kind, but no additional information, and there's nothing really that says like what this entity, this company, this individual, this freelancer does. Like it's a big question mark at this point. And this is your high value real estate area, meaning that if I don't click anywhere else on your site, I should get some pretty clear idea of what you are all about here on your homepage. So that is definitely an opportunity that you need to capitalize on. So I'm going to jump next to the About page, and that's going to load in. And so, we can see a little bit, of a bio here for Ismail. And, what I might suggest, and so this is something that I see pretty commonly on student websites or portfolio sites, is that they don't know what to put on the home page and the About page. But it stands to reason because this site is about you, these things could be consolidated, right? So that your home page includes this About information, giving us a fuller picture of what it is that you want to contribute in the media world. So this is misspelled. It should say portfolio. You guys really need to have hawk eyes on your site and any of your sort of professional representation, because you want to make sure that you're always putting your best foot forward. So here we see a few things: a podcast, stand-up comedy, Real Deal Tacos project, branding project. Okay, I've got the title and I can choose to examine these, but I want more information. What did you do on these, right? What part did you play? Are you the comic? Are you a branding specialist? Real Deal Tacos. I personally know that that's a website building project, but there's nothing here that says that. So what's missing is a greater contextualization of these things and what it is that you're trying to show that you can do and then potentially do for other people for money. So last but not least, I'm going to jump here to experience. So this looks a little bit like a resume, right? So you might want to call it a resume. And I would just encourage you to continue to fill this out with more keyword rich content. So you hosted these things in Atlanta, but I'm sure that, each one of these things, accompany podcasts, performing comedy shows, like there's so much more that you can pull out to give us a clearer picture of what this means, right? Because these are all big deals, but you give me like just a bullet point or one sentence to describe it. So I encourage you to tease that out quite a bit more. Next up, we're going to take a look at Natasha. So I can definitely appreciate, the icon or the graphic that you have up here. Stylistically, there are a few little, small tweaks that I would make to it, but we can talk about that next time you're in class. We can talk about the graphic design of that. It's a great picture, and we've got your name scrolling down, making art around the world. We've got, graphics here. What I'll say is that red and black is a really hard combination. It's hard on the eyes, and it doesn't necessarily offer a ton of color contrast, so that might be something that you want to revisit just for increased readability. Watch when I hover over this how easy it is to read Download My Resume. For the contrast, this font isn't really that easy to read, but you can see what I'm talking about with the color contrast with the red on black. So a couple of things. One is that I see that you're referring to yourself in the third person, which is fine. Just make sure that that's consistent throughout the site. Anytime you have paragraph text, you want that to be left aligned for easy readability. But I'm kind of scrolling down here and I don't even really get to know much about you until I've come all the way down to this area, and I'm still not quite sure exactly what you do or what you can offer here on these projects. So the recommendation is bring all that stuff up, make it clearer right off the bat, what it is that you want to offer. The typography that you've chosen is pretty stylistically all over the place, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 different fonts, right? You want to pick one for your headings, subheadings, or anything that you want to add emphasis to, create a nice, clean, clear body text, because anytime you get more than 2, you're running the risk of just competing aesthetics. So here, just a little bit more about who you are. Born to be an artist, grew up in Brazil. To me, that there's some very strange line breaks here, right? So it doesn't make sense sort of where these new paragraphs are starting, and also between paragraphs there should be a bit more space. So we see some imagery here, so this is cool. I know you're a world traveler, and as I click on these images, so something that happens when you are using a gallery or a slideshow in many of these content management systems is that it defaults the name of the image to the file name, which is what we see here. So unless you go in and you title this and give it a description that is accurate, it's going to default to this nonsense here, and it doesn't make it's not that clear for someone who is just plugging through your website, right? So this is a missed opportunity to more fully contextualize these images, but also to add keyword-rich content for SEO purposes. Under work, so it looks like I'm going to click on work to see if it takes me. Okay, so my life in art, so you're showing me a few things here. Branding, I like you've told me what these things are. I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. Let's look at branding. Okay, so branding, I kind of see a logo, but there's so much more information that's needed here for me to fully understand what it is that you're trying to show me. This is actually a graphic. It doesn't, it's not a brand at all. I have no information to associate that with a brand. It's a cool graphic, but I'm just trying to highlight the fact that you need more information about these things. I'm going to kind of keep clicking through here. So model, again, so if you don't give it a name yourself, it will default to the file name and look a bit like this. So, this portfolio has a lot of different components, right? And so I want you to be thinking about, what is the focus of what I'm trying to share here through my work. Last but not least, just a simple contact. I would encourage you guys to think about a call to action of some kind. Why should people contact you? Like, what kind of touch points or communications are you looking for? There's some weird spacing that all of this is empty. I can download your resume here. It looks like it is a Microsoft Word document that just loaded to, downloaded to my machine. That becomes problematic in that you've sent me an editable document here. So you always want to send a PDF file, which is a universal file format that kind of, it stabilizes and makes it so that your document isn't as easily modified. So definitely best practice there is any downloads would be in a PDF format. As I'm hovering over these social media icons, I can see, in fact, that they are linking out to other areas on the web. So a lot of times students forget to update that with their own information and have it linking to Wix locations. This is great. It's got a good start in terms of content, but the strategy and the layout need additional attention. So here we are looking at Leah's site. So what pops out to me here is social media and public relations and not the name of the company itself. The information hierarchy is off, right? So this should sort of be where my eyes initially go to, but because it's light in weight and this is a lot bolder, this is where my eyes are jumping to. So, something to think about there, like what do you want my attention on immediately? I'm digging sort of the cleanliness of the site, the layout. I appreciate the color choices and the grid type layout. Not sure about why this is cutting off, maybe because this is a single graphic and that this is a banner area, but something needs to be done here so that that doesn't get cut off that way. Scrolling down, kind of a, it's not a, maybe it's a call to action, but it's, suggesting what companies can do with viral media about us. So, viral media prioritizes the need of client. We help you do this. We. But then we just have a picture of Leah up here at the front. So like that's a bit of a disconnect, right? To speak sort of in this, collective, there are more than one, but you're just sort of like highlighting yourself front and center. Is this Leah's site or is it viral media site? Is Leah the face of viral media? These are things that need to be made a little bit more clear. Scrolling down, what we do, design, copywriting, branding, all of this is really nice. It's robust. But again, so like you say we, but the contact us is just a single person's name at Gmail, not a company name, right? So just more thought needs to be put in how you're delivering this. So under projects, so here, full sale portfolio. I'm a little confused as to like sort of what the distinction between your full sale portfolio and what your other projects are, right? Because I haven't seen, so maybe that's what this is. I'm wondering if this is just full sale stuff here and this is content creation, okay, for other entities. If this is going to be a professional site that you want to use to get clients, I don't know that you need to make the distinction between professional work or full sale portfolio work. Just always show your best projects. Meet the experts. So here we have, just a little bit of about Leah. And so one of the things is with paragraph text, you always want that left aligned for more easy readability. I like that it talks about, a bit of your journey and, that you are pursuing your degree there. Resume, I'm going to click on that. So skills and experiences loading up. So this is great. You have, a bit of, experience. This doesn't read like a normal like resume. I might include some date ranges and these in bulleted lists, right, for easy scanning. Book online. So this would be an opportunity that I could connect with you for these reasons. I appreciate the functionality that you've included here on this site, but wonder as to like whether or not this will actually be functional for you, like in your workflow. So as a freelancer, as someone who's putting systems into place to be able to speak with clients, it's hard to just say, okay, I'm going to book this design time right now without having discussed any sort of like project at all. I think a payment processor on your site is a good idea, but this in and of itself doesn't have enough lead in, I think, to like have somebody just be like, okay, let me go ahead and pay for something. Blog, so this is going to pop up, just some posts about, these are placeholders, right? So I can see where you're going with this. Recommendation, guys, is that when you put placeholder content on your site, that is just like a big sort of under construction flag. So you can't actually use this site to send to anybody at any given moment when the opportunity arises, because it's not finished. When you have blog posts ready, then add a blog. Overall, Leah, this is a wonderfully clean and you have great opportunities here to keep evolving this. Just refer back to the feedback given on the previous pages. Let's take a look at Matthew's here. So we talked a little bit about the red and black color combination. It's hard on the eyes. One of the things that you've done here is you've kind of put black behind the text and then made that white. It does make it stand out a little bit, but this is a very harsh, it's very harsh on the eyes. Your name doesn't stand out at all up here as the identity of the site. This stands out pretty nice, but the dark red stroke around your name makes that even harder to read. So definitely be thinking about the readability. Like if someone can't read the words that you put on your site or on your portfolio, then it doesn't hit the mark, right? Like it's not effective in communicating. So it's almost even like incredibly difficult to see this stuff over here, like in the navigation. So we've got portfolio needs to be capitalized to be consistent with the rest there. So this is just a little bit of about you, a nice image, wondering about having this sort of logo aspect and this as well seems a bit redundant. So Matthew Goldsmith, Matthew Goldsmith, Matthew Goldsmith, just being a little bit more, curating of the content that you share. I'm going to go to portfolio, and it's going to, it seems like this is somewhat of like your resume information. Again, I want to highlight the fact that the black text on this dark brick red, it's not, doesn't offer enough color contrast, and that needs to be updated. There's no formatting on this page that gives it any sort of information hierarchy, headings, subheadings, bulleted lists. There's no page title. This isn't a portfolio, it is a resume. And so, needs to be formatted as such. So instead of sort of this narrative of like when I first started working here, bulleted lists of your, responsibilities and your accomplishments in that role, maybe some date ranges. So, okay, I do see that there, but a little bit more that you can, that you can do to make that information more palatable. So lighting designer for years, so sound engineer, video operator, this is great, right? So like this is real world experience. You're like offering some really cool images to a company. Not sure why all of the images are down here on the bottom and I have to scroll through all this text to get there though. So maybe bring some of this stuff up. This would be some great stuff to highlight on your home page as well. It being down here where I'm continuing to have to scroll, you run the risk that I might not see it. Let's see, under blog, this is going to kind of pull in your student work, right? And so like the question is why? Do you feel that you are wanting to move into more of a wider media direction and your student work showcases, skills in that area? Or is it just like, I don't know what to put here, and so I'm, just putting something. It needs to make sense. Your content strategy needs to make sense. This isn't a catch-all, right? Like it's not put everything that you guys can think of. It's a very thoughtful and intentional like collection of the work that you've done so that, people can see it, believe it's valuable, and hire you for that same thing. Last but not least, just a simple contact page. Again, we have this really nice image of you and just a little bit of contact information. There's not much here on this page. There's not much on the home page. There's not much on the blog. This is a good starting point, but a lot more needs to be done. Like I could even maybe see this as a one-pager, right? So your branding, your navigation, a little bit of about me, highlighting one or two projects, saying something about my experience in the contact all the way down there at the end. Next up, let's take a look at Jedediah's. So, we have this dynamic background. This is a Wix template that is pretty common. When you guys use these things that are pretty striking visually, know that there's a lot of other people out there doing that. And to the extent that these stock images make sense on what you're doing, keep them. But really be thoughtful about, like, how does this relate to me? How does it relate to the work I do, or my location, or what I'm looking to do for other people? If it doesn't make sense, don't include it. So the name is pretty big front and center. We've got the ability to download the resume up there. Media Expert, the blue and the placement here makes it a little bit hard to read. I'd like to see this pop out a little bit more. A nice image. We've got your education here, where you've been going to school. And I'm just going to kind of click through this. Hobbies and interests. Okay. Let's see, about me. So growing up on a farm, you're going to school. Let's see what else. Experience. So like where you've been doing some work here. One of the things, let's see, I'm going to scroll down. So you've got skills in these areas. This is like, it's very clean. It's reading very nicely. Skills, this is all great keyword rich content, right? So that people who are looking for someone who has Illustrator skills will be able to find you. Projects, yes, this is what I was most curious about. So here we have, it looks like some videos, right? So some videos can be playing. Music videos, and this is, let's see, strategy recommendations, fictitious website proposal. Okay, so what I'm noticing is a couple of things. One, I can see your work, which is great, but I have no context to understand what I'm looking at, right? So there's no title description, no full detailing of what you've done, right? And like your part in it. So let's say I'm looking at a video, but how do I know that you were the camera operator, the editor, the cinematographer, any of those things? The more that you're able to detail that, the fuller picture that I get of your skills and abilities and what you might be able to do for me or my company. So here, just a simple contact. This is really clean all the way around. I like to see that your resume is coming in as a PDF. I would just say that like this here is not the greatest use of this high value real estate. This is the only area that you can guarantee that someone will see when they come to your website, because here they can choose your navigation, which you only have a home page, or download your resume, or just take a look at, hardly anything except stock content right here. My recommendation is that you pull up maybe a featured project in this area and give a little bit of your background right here, so I have more, more connection to the identity that you're presenting, or the brand that you're presenting. All right, here we're going to look at Carlene's site. So, a nice bold blue color. It looks like we've got about, education, experience, skills and languages, awards and interests. So here we also have just the identification, so media communication student. The way this wraps is called an orphan, right? So this is one word that's meant to go with these. I would see what I can do to make all of that go on one single line, because the way it reads is media communications, student, caregiver, Compton, California. And that doesn't quite make sense with the way that I think that you are trying to relay that. We've got contact, ways that we can connect with you in other places online, but as I hover over these, I can see that they are still linking to Wix locations, so that's something that you want to definitely update. We have the ability to download, your CV here, so that's also coming up as a PDF, which is great. An introduction. So you are a media communications student striving to become a news reporter or a website designer. So, your personal portfolio site would then, of course, look to show news reporting or website. So let's continue to, explore to see if it's backing up this statement up. So here's a little bit of about. What I'm seeing here is a ton of typography. You want to choose one font for your headings, subheadings, and anything you want to emphasize, and then another for the body text, right? But here I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fonts at least. When you do that, you really create an overall busy visual aesthetic, and it's something that's not terrifically cohesive. So you want to make sure that you are kind of narrowing that down to 2, at most 3 fonts that you're using. So I like this little background here where you're talking about yourself and giving us a little intro, your education, and then your experience. If you, have college experience, which you do, you don't need to include anything related to high school at this point. You talk about the experience of where you've worked, but this is sort of just where you worked and not really detailing anything that you've done there. So I kind of encourage you to build this out a little more so we can see the types of roles or responsibilities that you've been involved with. Skills and languages, um, audio and video production. It's a little counterintuitive for this to be a media site and talk about video production, but then just see a link to YouTube, right? So this information needs to be on here on the site. Don't send me somewhere off to view it. And this is a gobbledygook URL, meaning that this is just like the straight up file path. Give this a meaningful title. What is the name of this video? And I'm sure it's not URL. And so like I appreciate the contextualization. You made this video with Premiere. That's great keyword rich content. But what's the title? Like there's nothing here that really gives me enough information for me to pick between these things about, like what I want to view. Let's pretend I'm a busy hiring manager and I can only choose one thing. Like I don't have enough here to make an informed choice about how to spend my time. So make it easy for me. Title, description, and have the video right here so I can just press play. And make sure that it has like an interesting thumbnail, because when you do that, it will also entice someone to view your work. Awards. So it's nice, you have this area, but wondering, if it's a work in progress, interests, this seems a bit, it seems a bit like, definitely in, what's the word I'm looking for, related to different kinds of, media and art. So, it's definitely relevant, to this picture of you overall. But I encourage you to, shine the light on all the ways it could be even more relative or connecting those dots from you. Right, so here again, your social media links out to Wix. That needs to be fixed. Here we have a CV. As it loads in, we can see that this is just placeholder Wix document. So again, you guys, anything that is coming into a template that you don't update, it's like a liability almost to your site, meaning that if I click on it and it doesn't work, or I click on it and it has placeholder content, that's representing poorly on you and your brand and the completeness of your site. So dot your I's and cross your T's, and you don't have to have all these pages initially, but like make sure that the pages that you do have include the content and they work, right? That they're functional. The other thing that was a bit of a disconnect for me here was this cruise, like CC Cruise Productions. Like there's nowhere else that talks about that or has this identity. So this is really sort of like a question mark. Are you promoting yourself as an individual? Are you promoting yourself as a production company? The focus and the intent of the portfolio needs to be a little bit more clear. And last but not least, let's take a look at Diane's site. So we've got, a really pretty bright orange color. And your name up here at the top, kind of a fun design aesthetic. Curious as to why Diane is bigger than Anderson. Not sure about that choice. Also not sure about why some of this is all caps and then this isn't, right? So consistency is something that you definitely want to achieve in terms of the styles, especially with typography that you're using. I get a lot of great info about the types of things that you want to do here. So this is great keyword content. It's like a smorgasbord of skills and talents. Why is Content Manager in a darker font? Again, consistency. Home, about, graphic design, blog, photography, videography, run with me. So you also want to be mindful of using all caps all the time, because it looks a little bit like yelling and is a bit harder to read. So here, it looks, so I'm curious about this, right? This logo, because what is this about? Where we have this as a distinction, right? So are we, promoting Anderson All Things Media? Is that what should be up here? Is that the identity? So sort of question mark again, like, is this a company or is it an individual? And making clear the focus and the intent of that. As I'm hovering over these social media icons, I can still see that they are linking to Wix locations, so that's something that needs to be updated. Going to go next to about. So here, you have sort of a brief bio, but not sure about sort of the structure of this, right? Because it almost reads like they're sentences, but they almost read like bullet points. So something like this isn't as clear, right? Like the way it's laid out. So if it's going to be like full narrative sentences, make it that way. But if it's also, if it's just going to be bullet points, make them bullet points. Under Run With Me, so this looks like some examples of your graphic design. So I see your projects. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do is give more contextualization. I see that we have this, these designs, but who were they for? What were they for? Why are you trying to show me this? What skills did you use? What software did you use? The more that I know about what you've done, the better, I'm able to draw that connection between how you might help me with my business. One thing to note is that your navigation and your brand has completely disappeared, in that I have nowhere that I can go back to unless I hit the back button. And same thing here, right? So you've basically stranded me on these pages. Your navigation, meaning this here, needs to be on every page and in the same spot, so that I can make sure that I can navigate around. A user should never have to, pick the back button, right? This is interesting because, it's about your writing, and you've got some, different paragraphs here. But it's not a traditional blog format. I can't click on this post and it takes me to the full post. So if you're going to have a blog, I definitely encourage you to use that module, within the content management system or Wix, instead of just plain text on a page. There's great organizational and archival functionality in blogs whereby you post a new one, it moves the older ones into an archive, saved by months or dates, so you can go back and look at that over time. You're not constantly having to just add to the same page or take content and move it around. Let's see, last but not least, let's go to photography. So here it looks like, okay, we have one photo. Let me go back to videography here. All right, so what it looks like is that you've got a couple of examples of different type of work, which is great. Your portfolio is diverse in the types of things that you want to show. But what of these do you really want to kind of seek out in terms of your media communications career or trajectory, right? So part of the reason why we get you started on this initially is to say, okay, if these are my goals for becoming XYZ in the industry, this is the type of work I need to showcase on my portfolio. If I don't have that type of work, how can I get it between now and graduation? Maybe I do an internship. Maybe I volunteer pro bono for a friend. Maybe I can get hired on a freelance capacity. But essentially your portfolio is the proof that you can do the things like social media content and graphic design and all of these other things up here, right? So you need to make sure that your portfolio demonstrates your skills and abilities in that area. So if you guys have any questions about this feedback or sort of what is expected of you moving forward from here, please let me know. This is the first of many, many, many iterations of this portfolio site. Take this feedback, incorporate it, and keep pushing it to its next best place.